Your discipline is destroying you, and you're proud of it. You wake at 5 a.m., cold showers, meal prep, training sessions you never miss. You've built a fortress of routines, and inside that fortress you feel strong, untouchable. But here's what you haven't noticed. You're not strong. You're rigid. And the moment life applies pressure in a direction you didn't prepare for, you don't bend. You break. I need you to sit with something uncomfortable. The discipline you've built, the iron will you've forged, the identity you've constructed around being the person who never quits. It's not resilience. It's brittleness wearing a strong man's mask. And somewhere deep down, you already know this, because you felt it. That moment when your routine gets disrupted, and suddenly you're not just off track. You're completely unmoored. You miss one workout and the whole week collapses. One bad meal becomes a 3-day binge. Your discipline isn't a foundation. It's a tightrope. And you're exhausted from never being allowed to fall. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He watched men in Rome build elaborate systems of control, rigid codes of conduct, performing discipline like a public spectacle. And he saw what happened when chaos arrived, when disease swept through the empire, when floods destroyed their crops, when barbarians appeared at gates that were supposed to be secure, when nothing went according to plan. The men with the most rigid discipline were the first to shatter, because they'd never learned the difference between strength and control. They'd never tested themselves against real uncertainty. Here's what you'll understand by the end of this. Discipline without flexibility is just fear with a schedule. And the reason your discipline keeps failing isn't because you lack willpower. It's because you've been building a structure that can only survive in perfect conditions. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly why your greatest strength has become your hidden weakness, and what to do about it before the next break comes. Cade Brennan learned this the hard way. Navy background. Every day mapped to the minute. Training at 0500. Nutrition dialed in. Sleep optimized. He'd built himself into a machine, and he was proud of it. Controlled, precise, unbreakable. That's what he told himself. That's the identity he wore. Until his daughter got sick. Not seriously. Just a normal childhood illness. Fever, sleepless nights. The kind of thing that every parent handles. But suddenly his 0500 training session didn't happen. Then his meal prep didn't get done. His sleep schedule shattered into fragments. And something unexpected happened. Cade didn't just adapt. He fell apart. Not physically, psychologically, because his entire sense of self was wrapped up in the execution of his routine. Without it, he didn't know who he was. Without the structure, he couldn't recognize himself in the mirror. He found himself sitting in his kitchen at 2 a.m., his daughter finally asleep, staring at his meal containers still in the fridge, unwashed from days ago. And the thought that came wasn't, I need to get back on track. It was darker than that. It was, I'm failing. I'm weak. I'm not who I thought I was. His discipline hadn't made him strong. It had made him dependent. Dependent on perfect conditions. Dependent on nothing ever going wrong. Dependent on life cooperating with his schedule. That's when something Marcus Aurelius wrote 1,500 years ago became real to him. Not as words in a book, but as truth lived in his body. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Cade had built his entire identity on power over outside events. Wake time, meal time, training time, every variable controlled, every contingency managed. And he'd mistaken that control for strength. But control is not strength. Control is what you do when you're afraid of what happens without it. He called me 3 days into this spiral. His voice had that edge. You know the one. Tight. Controlled. Barely holding it together. I just need to get back to my routine, he said. Once things settle down, I'll be fine. And that's when I had to tell him what he didn't want to hear. The routine wasn't the solution. The routine was the problem, not because routines are bad, but because he'd built a routine that could only survive in a world that didn't exist. A world where nothing unexpected happened. A world where he was always in control. Real discipline isn't about perfect execution. It's about maintaining your center when everything around you is chaos. It's not about never missing a workout. It's about knowing who you are, whether you train or not. The Stoics didn't build rigid systems. They built flexible principles. They didn't say, do this exact thing at this exact time forever. They said, know what matters. Then do what the moment requires. Cade's breakthrough came when he stopped asking, how do I get back to my routine? And started asking, who am I when the routine isn't possible? Because that's the real question. Strip away your perfect conditions. Take away your controlled environment. Remove your 5 a.m. alarm and your meal prep and your training plan. Who's left? If the answer is, I don't know, then you haven't built discipline. You've built dependency. He started small, not by doing more, by doing less, by practicing being okay when things didn't go according to plan, by training in chaos instead of training in control, missing a workout on purpose, eating the meal that wasn't on his plan, staying up late when his daughter needed him, and not spiraling into self-judgment about lost sleep, not punishing himself for being human. And slowly, something shifted. His discipline stopped being a tightrope he walked. It became ground he stood on. Here's what you need to do. Not 5 things. Not a new system. One thing. Tomorrow, or this week, break your routine on purpose. Not as a failure. As practice. Miss the thing you never missed. Skip the habit you're most proud of. And then sit in the discomfort of that. Don't fix it. Don't make up for it. Don't spiral. Just notice. Are you still you? Because if your identity collapses the moment your routine does, then you never built discipline. You built a cage and called it strength. True discipline is what remains when the schedule falls apart. Everything else is just control dressed up as virtue. This is where most people stop. Don't be most people today.